Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Books That Make You show. I am your host, Desiree Duffy. And sometimes people kind of wonder what it is I happen to be drinking in this cup of tea. It's tea, actually. What it is, I got to share this with you really quick before I bring on our guest, David Konrad, is there's this amazing company called Novel Teas, and they make tea tins like this. You think this is a book? It's a tea tin. Isn't that amazing? Here's one taken off of Peter Rabbit. You notice the cute names, Peter Rabbit, and look inside. They have some bookmarks, and that's tea. It's bookish tea. They have all kinds. They have a cup of Cthulhu. They've got, this is one of my favorites, Pride and Peppermint. Pride and Peppermint. Isn't that adorable? So you got to check them out. It's at novelteastin.com. It's perfect if you are a book lover or you know somebody who's a book lover. Pride and Peppermint, Sense and Sensibility. Oh my goodness. They're just adorable. They've got one that's called War and Peach, Anise in Wonderland. They have so many. Once again, check them out, novelteatins.com. But now it is time for us to talk about books and bookish things with a bookish guest. We are talking about books that make you go on exciting adventures with young readers. Now, we all know how important reading is to our kids, but what are we reading to them? As we inspire young readers, are we sending them off on exciting adventures and instilling in them a love for literature that they're going to hold with them their entire lives? And what role does dad play in encouraging the kids to read? What can dad do to kind of level up as a bookish role model? Our guest today was David Konrad. He is an adventurous dad who shares his love of storytelling, not only with his twins, but with young readers around the world. He's the author of the Project Adventure children's book series. Now, these are action-packed, fun-filled mysteries. They feature characters that young readers just root for again and again. And he has a strong desire to make a difference in the lives of children, and that's reflected in his writing and everything he does. David Konrad, welcome to the show.
Hi, Desiree. Thank you for having me on the show. It was a great introduction. I hope I deserve all the praise that you've given me.
You absolutely do. You are an inspiration to me. Since the first time I met you, I thought, wow, this is not only a great dad and somebody who cares about his kids, but you have this philosophy of dads reading to their kids and kids being fun and exciting. So tell me, let's start with that big question. Why do you feel dads should be reading to their kids?
Well, that's a very obvious question and a big one. There's no reason not to, but if we're gonna find, specific reasons why we should do it more often, I feel, well, in my particular case, I have twin boys, as you mentioned. I think for them, it's kind of important that they have a role model in their dad, in me. So I hope sometimes when we do read, or when I read some stuff to them, I also kind of, I plant a personal story or two in there. I make them understand that, their daddy wasn't always this, old and grumpy guy that's always complaining about, pains in his knees and stuff. I used to be like them, and I used to seek out adventures, and I used to do stuff, and then sometimes I tell them, sometimes I lie a little bit, of course, I make up stuff, but that's fine.
That's what dads do. You make it fun and exciting, and you're the kind of dad that takes them to the playground too. I mean, you're a stay-at-home dad in many ways, aren't you?
Yes, that's correct. For many reasons, and we're an international family, and we lived in many places, mostly around Europe, but yeah, the decision was made because it was getting too difficult. So that one of us had to take the, well, I wouldn't call it the burden, just take the more
Yeah, well,
take more responsibilities with the kids and their endless activities and this and that, and not to mention the kids when they're small, they get sick all the time, and then one gets sick and the other gets sick. It's always, it's a 24/7 job.
yeah.
So one had to do it. One of us had to do it. The decision was that I should do it again for various family reasons, and I never regretted it. I mean, I have to say, I've never worked harder in my life. I've never been paid less. And I never enjoyed it more. So it's really kind of incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the world is changing. Our roles are changing. You are somebody you're very international too.
Yeah.
I know you are from Croatia. Right now you are
Yes.
in Germany. Your wife is
Yes.
from America. And I know you travel a lot. So you see the world in maybe a different lens than what a lot of people do because they live in those bubbles, right? But you exemplify what it can mean to be a career dad, staying at home, reading to his kids and writing for his kids as well. I think that's commendable.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the writing, because as an author, as somebody who is writing stories, you're also a role model. Tell us about, when you're inspiring your kids and you're reading and writing to them, what does that feel like?
Oh, I mean, that's the best feeling in the world. Like when you have your kids, not just your kids, but this is what I can actually see and observe when we did read all of my books to them, chapter by chapter.
Mhm.
When they, when you see the attention and focus on the story in their eyes, in their faces, when they weeks, months after they've heard the story, when they make a reference to it, it is the best feeling in the world. You've touched something with when you get that back, when you get that feedback. And I've also received, from my readers, and it is around the world, and not just the kids, even the grown-ups. Some grown-ups that actually had to read the books, they enjoyed it too, because in all of us, there's always still that kid, and people love books. I feel like they keep that kid inside them the longest, just because they have this luxury of mentally regressing in their minds while they're reading. They can go on adventures as kids, as they did as when they were kids. So
Yeah.
this is what I really enjoy seeing. From my kids and my readers, is that they dive deep into the story, that they're taken, they grabbed by the plot or by the characters, and they root for the characters, and they're like, it's an amazing feeling. It is, it is. You can see them using their brains in a different way to as opposed to watching TV or something like that. It's a very different thing, and I love it.
Yeah. It's a much different experience than being on a phone or an iPad or a computer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. This is the
Yeah. Now
problems
I
of today's world, but yeah.
right. That there's nothing that
We
beats
have
that
to
real
learn how
life.
to live with that. On the other hand, it's easier than ever for kids to get books on their Kindle readers or iPad. So you always have to look at it from both perspectives. But yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Sorry.
okay. I was just saying, because you mentioned the adults that read your books, and
Mhm.
I know a lot of adults who have read your books. I know that a lot of teachers, educators, parents, especially when you're looking for either books to have in the classroom, books to have in the library, books to get kids, if you've got grandkids or nieces and nephews, that's one of the things that I really dig about the Project Adventure series, because you've got 4 books so far in the series. It kind of brings me back. Maybe I'm dating my age a little bit, but it brings me back to Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew a little bit.
I heard that a lot of times from many sides of the world, from all the corners. I've heard that before, yes.
Yeah.
And it is similar to that in a way. It's just plain good old fun and adventure. There's a bunch of kids that get themselves into dangerous and spooky situations, and they need to get themselves out of it. With no helps from the adults, using their own skills and wits, and it's very straightforward literature, if I may call it that. But it's really fun to read, and it's quick and it's action packed. That's the whole goal. That's the whole premise of this series. So and since you mentioned the 4 books, I'm not stopping there, obviously. Or maybe you probably had a question specific to that.
Oh yeah, we're going to ask you what's coming up next.
Okay, then we'll leave it for later. Okay,
don't worry about that. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll definitely get to that. So okay, one more question about the adventure aspect of it, because I think what you're saying is so important. You're not trying to solve big theological or sociological questions. You're not getting really deep and heavy. It's fun, it's adventure, and that's so important for young readers. And we're talking like middle grade readers. We're talking 9 to maybe 12 years old, right? Right in those formative years.
Yes. I mean, of course, children, they differ. I mean, there are different levels, and some kids do and should read maybe more complex literature. But what I was trying to do is I just wanted to write something that is going to instill that first love for the feeling of holding a new book, and that feeling when you have to go to sleep, but you just want to turn that one more page and one more page. This is something. This is I wanted to create a page turner series of books that doesn't deal with troubles of the modern world, or not just the modern world, but generally all the difficulties that young people or kids have to go through. This is meant to be something different, and this adventure is what I'm trying to basically awake those primal instincts in kids, sense of fear, sense of unity, sense of friendship, good versus evil, very simple subjects like that, because it doesn't, not every book needs to have tragedy in it for kids. I mean, it doesn't have to have a tragedy. Some books can just be plain adventure, and the good prevails in the end, and kids are capable of dealing with stuff much more than we give them credit for.
That is such an important point. Yeah. I mean, taking risks, as you point out, it's good to take risks and let kids break out of that comfort zone that we might want to put them in and protect them. It's good for them to have those experiences, because that gives them a sense of what the real world will eventually be like.
You said it. I mean, it's our job to prevent them from doing it and try to keep them safe. It's their job to try to break the rules and do whatever they want to do. So it's the thing is, I think that kids that read actually tend to do that more often later in life, because they've it also helps their own creativity. They get ideas. So,
Yeah.
not in. I mean, I'm not in a bad. It's not that they're going to do the exactly same things that they read in books, but they do. I think improve generally. They improve their creativity, or they not just their creativity. They also through these other characters, through seeing the world in through some characters' eyes, they better understand the 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 world as it is. I mean, they see it for what it is, and they see the danger in it sometimes, and they're aware of it. And maybe it'll just make them that little bit more prepared later in life. So
Yeah,
I think risk.
exactly.
I think risk is a good thing, because without risk, you cannot. You don't feel alive if you don't taking any risks. That's throughout the life. It's not just for kids. I mean, it's everybody should take some sort of risk, occasionally. So
Yeah, we need to. It's the world, it's life. You're absolutely correct about that. And it is. I mean, David, it just again, I'm just gonna, Encyclopedia Brown. I know I'm dating myself, but those books are still with me.
mhm.
And that's what the Project Adventure books can be for kids that are growing up today. And I think that's just so magical because, like you said, you do develop empathy and a perspective on the world when you read and you get into the character's point of view and you see the world through them. And I
Mhm.
just can't underscore enough how wonderful that is to be doing with our kids. And I would love to learn about what you think about what teachers and educators, because it's not just the parents,
Mhm.
it's not just
Mhm.
mom and dad and grandparents, but educators too. What kind of thoughts do you have for educators? What message might you have for them?
Well, along the lines of what we talked about before. I mean, sometimes a fun book that kids will read cover to cover, is better than forcing maybe some books that might be, dealing with certain um, issues of the modern society and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's better just to get the kids to read,
Hmm.
and to get them to read. You will not do it, by. I think we already said this once. You're not going to do it by giving them, like, Russian classics. They're not going to read it. But if you start with comic books, and you then you move on to, like, adventure novels and stuff like that, and then you build up to serious literature. I think that's the way to go. I mean, I believe that kids do want to read. It just needs to be the right type of a book for them at certain stage.
Yeah.
So educators know this better than I do, and I think for them, it's so important for them also to see their kids. I mean, they're investing their whole lives into basically raising these kids. I mean, they're raising them more than we do at certain points in life. I mean, they're the gateway to the world. Um, and they know this better than I do, how important it is for kids to focus, to am I saying this right, like to engulf themselves into uh,
Yeah. Like immerse themselves.
immerse themselves into a
Yeah.
story, into a book, into this to the plot, and relate to different characters, because relating with different characters also builds that. Later on in life, you can better understand that there are different characters. I mean, maybe you can't ask them, you can't talk to these people, but knowing from books, that the different characters, different personalities exist, helps you to deal with different people later in life. I mean, that's also, in my view, something that is, also sometimes it's forgotten, it's not mentioned enough.
Absolutely. Okay, now I did a little quick sketch of Project Adventure. But let's talk specifically about not only the 4 books. Why don't you give us like the quick rundown of the 4 books and then talk about the next book that's coming out.
All right.
Oh yeah, if you have the books there.
I do have them ready. I will show this one.
There we go. There's the Heart of the Island, which I attempted to draw.
the cover of this book was inspired by a little sketch by Desiree Duffy. And this is my first book, and to date, I mean, maybe my favorite. I really do love this cover, and it was it was the first time I ever attempted to write a book, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't received really good reviews from my first editors, who were really positive about certain aspects of my writing. That's not to say that it was perfect from the beginning. I mean, it was drafts and drafts and drafts. It was back and forth, but we managed to, and it was never. I didn't start this with the idea of a series, but I was lucky enough that we managed to create the series out of this book, because the characters were series worthy, as one of the editors explained to me, that you can't base a series on this. And then we developed, we built from that, and so the problem is still my favorite book. It has an interesting story, and it has a fantastic twist towards the end, which I'm still getting a lot of praise for.
Yeah.
And the second book, Rumble at the Zoo, it is a very, very quick-paced, very fast adventure based in a zoo. Obviously, there are some loose animals, there are some bad guys, there's climbing the trees, there are, traps, there's everything.
All the things kids love, right?
All the things kids love. And this is probably the most, I would call it, most energetic of all the 4 books. This is a non-stop action book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That one really moves, you're right.
Yeah, so then book number 3 is The Courtside Mystery, which is my kind of an homage to basketball, which is the sport that I'm still actively involved with as a coach and a player, but I coach also teenagers. So not my readers. I like my readers better than teenagers, as everybody else. Just, I'm kidding. I mean, teenagers are great. You just need to. Especially when you give them a basketball, then they're fine.
Right.
Then they have a place to get rid of their energy.
There you go.
And then we come to the book number 4, which is the Scrapyard Shakedown, which is set in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my favorite cover, I would say.
That's a great cover. I love that. They're trapped on the ice and they're going down the river there.
And I love this book for many reasons, and that this one is the best written book, if I may say so. I mean, this book, in my personal opinion, is it really, this is one of the first time when I really felt like I'm not an imposter anymore, like I'm actually a writer with this book. And also due to the fact that my editors basically also agreed that this is probably the best written book. But I mean, the stories are important in these books. I think that new readers will enjoy all of them, and they don't have to start with book number one. I would recommend it, but I do add a little bit of necessary background in all of the books so you can follow it with no. I mean, it's not an issue. So.
Yeah, yeah. And that's nice to know too. If you have a kid who's into basketball, then maybe that's the introduction, and it's okay because it's not a serial type of story. It's more of an anthology where you can
correct.
kind
It's
of get
like
the gist of
episodic,
everything.
and every episode basically is a standalone. I am using I mean, the project adventure is basically 3 characters. In the first book, it's just 2, and then in the book number 2, they have an addition to the team, and then this is the team that is then solving everything, all the crimes throughout the books, throughout the series. But yes, you can easily start the book 3, back to 1, and so forth.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, maybe I should say a few words
what's
about
coming up next? You've been teasing us this entire time, David. Of course, we want to know what the next book is. It's not out yet.
Yes.
Not quite
The
yet.
next book is work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's work in progress. I do have already the story is, more or less it's outlined. So of course it'll change a little bit.
It happens.
During the course of writing, you change a little bit, and then you edit it, and you change a little bit. So, but there's an interesting story. This time it involves some art and some very, very sneaky people that are trying to rid some other people of that art. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these little sleuths, the kid detectives of Project Adventure, can handle that and can solve it. And this time it's personal. This time it's personal.
Yeah,
this time it is personal. This time we're going to learn a little bit more about Matt, who is the main 3 characters of the Project Adventure are Ethan, Matt, and Lisa. And Ethan is the narrator throughout the series. So he talks a lot. He's like me. He talks a lot. And Matt is his buddy who doesn't talk a lot. So we don't always get to we don't know much about him. But this time it's kind of personal because his family is involved in all of this. So it's a step forward.
Well, I like it too because I must say, as a grandparent, when Grammy is involved, then my interest gets piqued. So his poor grandmother gets all wrapped up into this too, which is lots of fun and exciting. David Konrad, author of Project Adventure book series. Can you tell people where they can go online to find out more about you and, of course, to find the books?
Well, first of all, my books are all available on Amazon. For now, it'll be more in the not so distant future. I will use some other distribution channels.
Your books will be available wherever people can find books. They can order it from their local library, from Target, Barnes and Noble, everywhere.
I do hope so. If
the store doesn't have them, then just say, "Hey, I need you to get these books," and they'll be able to order them. Where can people find you on your website? Give us your details.
My website is davidkonradauthor.com. I'm also active on Instagram, and I have a Facebook page. So basically, it's always David Konrad with a K. David Konrad Author. And I'll be very happy to hear from fans or people who are about to become fans, and I'm very happy to answer all the questions they might have with regard to the books, the characters, whatever.
Fantastic. David Konrad, author of Project Adventure book series for kids. Thank you for joining us today on the Books That Make You show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on your show, Desiree, and I wish the best for the rest of the week.
Absolutely.
And your listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for being with us here today on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And of course, we're on YouTube. Make sure you ring that bell. That way you are subscribed and you always get up-to-date information on wonderful interviews with authors like David Konrad and the BookFest and so much more. Until next time, all of my bibliophile friends, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.